This turned his stomach and sent his thoughts into panic mode. Then Punky said, "How do you know? You don't look pregnant, and we haven't been together that long." Sly said, "Well, I guess the night I told you I'd work off my debt for the truck, it happened then, hence the whole bathroom situation." Sly said, "Well, I guess that night it happened then, hence the whole bathroom situation." Sly said, "It's yours, so you need to sell your bike and get me another car." This didn't set well, and a fight ensued. The outcome, she got her way and also covered up the lie about the kid being his. After the baby boy was born, Punky let Sly always have her way, now because he feared her witchy ways and her witchery. Letting Sly name the baby after her grandpa, she loved and had recently passed away, decided to name the child Aaron, as a front to the hatred and resentment she carried towards Harley and his baby. Now, after Sly, his grandpa, passed, he left in his will that her second born child would receive an inheritance at the immediate birth and at different stages in small amounts. When the child came of age, then the remainder of the funds would go to him, unless the unfortunate death of the child, it would all go to Sly and her third born. The thought of how perfect her plan was already coming together, and this was what she'd been waiting for. Since this news was given by her grandmother, the widow of Sly's grandpa, Sly decided it was best to keep this a secret, being as how Punky was oblivious to this information anyways. This only left her focused on two things, but mainly one thing. The first of the two things was the sacrifice of her baby boy, Aaron, and the number one thing, how to have all that money to herself. Deep, man. Can't make this stuff up. After returning to her new car Punky just bought her, Sly rubbed her hands together with greedy, eager expectations of profit and no big loss. As she pulled away from the curb, a black cat ran right out in front of her, and she yelled, "Stupid cat," as it ran across the street, seeing it in her rearview mirror. Thinking no more of it, as she was driving home, a bird hit the windshield. This freaked her out because she knew all too well what birds hitting the windshield meant, or any window for that matter. But cats was something else entirely in her mind, because she wasn't the type to care unless it was one of her own animals, which she treated better than people. Arriving home, however, Punky met Sly at the door and said, "Your dad, Ty, called." "What did he want?" Sly asked, through gritted teeth. How she despised that man, she thought to herself. "I don't know what he wanted. He didn't say. He sounded drunk and said to have you call him back when you could." She immediately thought of the bird hitting the window, as an anxious feeling came over her. She picked up the phone right as Ty was calling again. Sly went to say, "Punky, the phone's not working," when she heard a cough and a "Sly, is that you?" "Yeah, it's me. What do you want, old man? This better be good or I'm hanging up." Clearing his throat, Ty replied, "Nice to hear from you too. Anyways, are you sitting down? Because if not, you might want to for this." Sly thought maybe her grandmother was sick or something, but she just left her house, so she knew it wasn't that. But it was not what she expected Ty to say. Clearing his throat again, Sly barked, "Well, out with it, old man." Ty finally said, "Your sister is dead." "What?" Sly screamed. "You're lying. If she's dead, how did she die?" Ty cleared his throat again and said, "It was a drug overdose." Sly hit the floor and was what looked like frozen in place. As Aaron crawled on her lap, and she felt nothing, pushing the child onto the floor. She had gone completely numb. The three people she truly loved had left her. Two more besides her parents. And one rejected her because she was a witch, which was Harley. This was her chance now because she felt as though she had nothing left to lose now. It was time to put her plan into action and get rid of this kid and get that money. Get money! She decided it was time to make her move. Now that it had taken her over 6 months to make all the preparations, phone calls, and scheduling, dark high priests and priestesses, witches, warlocks, and others belonging to the Coven cult had arrived for the sacrifice. Sly was filled with eager excitement and anticipation for the reward of all her plotting, planning, and preparing. As Aaron laid on the cold marble and granite slab, without a diaper and crying, no one comforting the little boy. Aaron was there for one purpose and one purpose only, to be the scapegoat, and the sacrifice to remove all Sly's problems, or so she thought. As the rituals ensued, though nothing seemed to work, Aaron went from crying on the table to giggling, staring straight up at the ceiling of the room that was underground. Her plan to sacrifice the child without cutting it up had failed. Sly knew now her dead sister Pat was telling the truth. The baby boy Aaron was half angel and half demon, and was protected by both sides, both by the light and the dark. Her plan failed even after all the arrangements and all the power they had together didn't work. She just glared at the giggling baby and decided, okay then, instead of killing him for now, I'll just steal his power and cloak myself in his energy. That's when they performed the destiny swap ritual, so Sly could wear Aaron's energy like a beautiful fur coat. Only if she knew this would only serve her for a while, but not forever, like she thought it would at all. As a finger was dipped in the blood from a rattlesnake mixed with Sly's blood, Dr. Blitz had saved for this very occasion. The whole coven began to chant the incantations over the child. Sly felt a pulse of energy rush through her veins. She finally got what she wanted, the power she had been looking for. Now the money and respect would come to her. She thought, at last, it worked. Yeah. 4 years later, it was Aaron's 5th birthday. This is about the time he started being aware of himself and his surroundings. Aaron said, "Thank you for my truck cake," as Sly glared at him without a word. Now Punky came in through the back door of their apartment and said, "Come here, squirrel. I got something for you." It was an Italjet 50. Aaron's eyes grew wide and said, "Is this for me?" Punky replied, "No, but I'll let you use it if you're good and do what your mother tells you." Aaron said, "Okay, can I ride it?" As he ran over and sat on it, trying to get his balance at first. Aaron said, "How do I start it?" Punky reached over and pulled out the Kickstarter like this, and Punky fired it up. Now Aaron was good on bicycles, the banana seat type with the tall handlebars, but this thing was different. It had a throttle, not pedals. Sly came outside with a wry grin and said, as a spell, he's going to kill himself on that. As the motorcycle was warming up, Punky replied, "He'll be fine." While Aaron messed with the throttle to get used to it, all of a sudden, not being told the motorcycle was an automatic, Aaron tore out of the backyard with no helmet on. As Aaron reached the field across the street, He turned around and came back. When he decided to give it a little more gas, that's when it happened. The throttle stuck wide open. Aaron crossed the street, up over the curb, and through the next door neighbor's fence, finally ending up going head on with a peach tree and covered in splinters. Aaron hit the ground crying because he thought he was going to be beaten for crashing the motorcycle and going through the fence. The motorcycle, with the throttle stuck wide open, continued to roar. Punky came over and shut the motorcycle off, then grabbed Aaron, not asking him if he was okay. Punky just shook his head. Reaching the apartment, Aaron was once again not only in pain but in fear of what was next. Being laid out on the table where his cake was, alcohol was dumped on Aaron by Sly as she laughed and said, "This is going to hurt you more than it is me." Crying and shaking from the pain of his wounds and from the alcohol being dumped on him, Sly began pinching his skin with tweezers to get the splinters out. Aaron, being pinned down by Punky, couldn't escape what was being done to him and finally passed out from the pain, only to wake up the next morning on the floor of his and his little brother Shadow's bedroom. Aaron's little brother Shadow seemed to get better treatment from Sly than he did. Maybe it was because he was the baby, Aaron thought. Shadow went to a school called Tiny Tots, and Aaron was in kindergarten around this time. Aaron rode the bus to school and home, and also had to look after Shadow because Sly and Punky never seemed to be home when they got out of school. So one day, arriving home after school, Aaron went to go in the apartment. The door didn't open. It was locked. Feeling panicked, Aaron started ringing the doorbell and slamming his foot against the door, hoping someone was home, and nothing. Finally, Shadow got dropped off, and it was starting to get dark. So Aaron took Shadow and said, "Come on, let's go to my friend's house." Aaron and Shadow arrived at Jeff's house, and Aaron knocked on the door to see Jeff's mom in an apron, hands covered in flour. As she said, "Why, hello, Aaron. And who is this with you?" Aaron replied, "My little brother, Shadow. He just got dropped off, and my mom and dad aren't home. Can we stay here because it's getting dark and I really got to use the bathroom?" Jeff's mom chuckled, then with a smile, "Of course. Jeff's in his room. Are you boys hungry?" she asked. Shadow nodded his head, and Aaron said, "Only if you got enough. But yes, please and thank you." Jeff's mom said, "I'll let you know when it's ready, sweetie." At this time, Jeff came down the stairs. Aaron and Jeff high-fived, and then Aaron asked, "Where's the bathroom?" "Oh, this is my little brother Shadow. He's only 4. As Aaron went into the bathroom, a bad feeling washed over him. Not knowing what intuition was at the time, he just felt a feeling of fear and couldn't shake it. Washing his hands, Aaron looked at himself in the mirror and prayed, "God, please let my daddy and mommy be okay. But I sure wish I had a mommy like Jeff's. Amen." Stepping down off the stool at the counter, Aaron dried his hands and went to check on his brother, only to hear Jeff's mom call, "Boys, come to the table. I hope you're hungry." Jeff was telling Shadow, "Come on, follow me," as Aaron met them in the hallway. And all the boys made a beeline to the table. But Aaron just knew something wasn't right. Not at Jeff's house, but because of something else. So he'd lost his appetite and gave most of his food to Shadow because Shadow could eat. Only at 4 years old, he would eat like a vacuum cleaner. Around 9-ish, someone came beating on the door, screaming, "Aaron, Shadow." Jeff's mom opened the door to see a woman who went from beating on the door and yelling our names to politely smiling and asking, "Are my boys here?" I told them not to leave the house, but you know, boys, they don't listen. Jeff's mom arched an eyebrow and put her hand on her hip and said, "Yes, they fell asleep on the couch shortly after I fed them dinner. Aaron told me you wasn't home and asked if him and his brother could stay here because it was getting dark now." Sly's face grew red with embarrassment. She snapped, "Get up, boys, time to go home," without so much as a thank you to Jeff's mom. Aaron getting pulled by the ear and Shadow being grabbed by the arm. Once the door shut at Jeff's house, Aaron knew his bad feeling was right. Arriving at the apartment when Aaron and Shadow should have already had a bath and been in bed, was in for a long night. Sly said, "Open the door, Aaron, since you said it was locked." The door opened without hesitation. "See, you just didn't try hard enough. You never try. Unlike your little brother, he's only 4 and smarter than you." Then it came, the smack to the face. Then picked up as Sly was going to do something else. The neighbors stepped out and said, "Oh, we see you finally made it home. Glad your boys are okay. We seen them sitting out here earlier, but then walked up the street." They walked up the street. "I've been home," Sly snarled as she pushed the boys inside, slamming the door and screaming, "I told you not to play in your good clothes. You know to change after school, but you never listen. That's what your play clothes are for." As she grabbed the fly swatter, Aaron ran to his room to hide. Aaron ran and hid in the closet, piling clothes on top of him so Sly wouldn't find him. He heard the footsteps coming up the stairs. Stomp, stomp, stomp. As she yelled, "I'm gonna beat your ass for not doing what I told you." Aaron was so scared of being beat again, he held his breath so she wouldn't find him. But she did. Grabbing Aaron by his hair, ripped him out of the closet, threw him onto his bed, and tore the shoes off of Aaron's feet. As she turned the fly swatter around with the metal wire handle exposed and began beating the bottom of Aaron's feet with the handle part of the fly swatter, screaming, "You stupid, idiotic, beep, beep, beep." You can fill in the blanks there if you want. "I told you to change and not wear your school shoes to play in." Even in pain, Aaron screamed, "You wasn't home. Stop, stop. I couldn't get in to change." Bursting into tears, Sly beat the bottom of Aaron's feet black and blue with the wire end of the fly swatter. The next day, when Aaron couldn't walk because his feet was swollen and bruised, Punky asked Aaron what had happened. Apparently, Sly had gone off on Punky too because he had a black eye and there was a broken coffee cup on the floor. Punky took Aaron to the sheriff's department and the deputy took pictures and made a file, but nothing ever happened to Sly. Yep, she got away with it, plain and simple. That's all for now.